Welcome to Networking RX, a podcast devoted to helping business professionals like you enhance your networking skills in order to become more proficient giving and receiving quality business referrals and improving the overall quality of your life and the lives of those around you. The Networking RX podcast is a production of AmSpirit Business Connections, an organization whose mission is to empower business success through networking.
Welcome to the Networking RX podcast. I am your host, Frank Agan, founder and president of AmSpirit Business Connections. Today, you're not going to hear a lot from me because it's another great guest day. Today, we have on the program Bob Graham. Bob is a consultant with Breakthrough Solutions. He's a sought-after speaker, and he is the author of the newly released book, Breakthrough Communication Skills. Bob, welcome to the program.
Thanks, Frank. And first of all, before we go any further, I want to congratulate you on reaching 100 episodes of your podcast. I do a podcast myself, and anyone who reaches 100 is seriously legit.
Well, I appreciate that. I still feel like I'm just getting started. You know, we're always learning, right? Always doing something, and I wish I'd have done that. I wish I'd have done that. But thank you. I appreciate that. So let's jump in. In a nutshell, tell me about breakthrough communication skills. What are you getting across to the readers?
You asked the core question that I answer all the time, Frank. And let me preface it by saying my background is in communication, journalism. I've done marketing, public relations. And so this certainly is layered on by that. But really, we're talking about three skills that help us better communicate with other people. And if you think about the world we live in, Frank, we're in this situation where we have great technology advances and the technology gets better and better, but we still need people. And people are the glue that holds together that technology. You can do a lot with technology, but like I did tell people, I don't want a technology doctor to tell me I'm really sick. I want a person to tell me I'm really sick. So what I've done in thinking about my career and looking at my experiences and experiences of other people is I've come up with three breakthrough communication skills that really help us achieve whatever we're trying to achieve with other people.
Okay, that baits the question. Can you give us the three, or do we have to buy the book?
I'm going to give you the three, Frank, because I'm a nice guy.
All right.
The first one is attunement. And that's a word. It's funny. I've had a whole bunch of people ask me, is that really a word? It's actually a word. But attunement is, how do we get in tune with what the other person or other people have going on in their lives, the realities of their situation, but also how do we get in tune with ourselves? So for instance, you and I were easily and quickly attuned with each other because we're of the same age and we have the same perspective on a lot of things. So we were quickly attuned. But imagine if you were someone who came from a very serious sales background and I had no sales experience, how we might have to find that common ground. So attunement is finding that common ground and building from that commonality.
So it's more than just listening skills. It's deeper than that.
Absolutely. It goes a lot deeper. So it's me understanding that if I'm talking to a certain person who might be slightly older than me, I might put them in the role of my father and ascribe to them things that my father had, perspectives that are valid or invalid, but knowing that and checking myself at the door and saying, oh, this person fits that prototype, and I usually drop them into that box. And conversely, it's also recognizing what other people bring to the table in terms of their perspectives and in terms of how they approach the world.
So reading body language, I assume, would be part of that?
Sure. Body language, the things that they're not saying to us that we know. I mean, a lot of times it's our gut that you go, boy, I shouldn't have told that joke to this person. It just landed wrong. Right. And going, wow, what was wrong with that joke? Where did I go off track? And asking the person, I told a joke a little earlier. I felt like that might not have been really the right thing for you. Was there something I said that was offensive or caused you pain? And they go, well, you started telling a joke about this person, and it reminded me of my sister, because she always told jokes. And my sister was in a really bad car accident 3 months ago.
Okay.
That's not what you intended to do by telling that joke. But those things do happen. So miscommunication can really sabotage a lot of what we try to achieve.
Okay, good. Attunement number 1. Number 2.
Okay, I knew you'd prompt me. So number 2 is experience management. It's looking at experiences that we've had inside our own lives, but also experiences of other people, and leveraging them to make better decisions or to lead to better outcomes. When we talk, the big thing that companies are looking for right now, entrepreneurs, innovation and creativity. Innovation and creativity, I would argue, becomes much easier when we look at experiences and say, wow, you did this thing, I did this thing. Let's merge those things together and achieve something greater. You and I, Frank, probably could talk about podcasting, your experiences, my experiences, and put them together and create a much better podcast for both of us, because we've both learned things. But often what we do, especially when we're leaders or managers, is we only consider our own experience. And so we don't get the breadth of opportunity that other people can bring to us. Or, and this is something I see all the time, organizations tend to have people who hire mini-me's because, well, this person went to the same college I went to, or this person has the same type of experience. So they'll be easy to manage. They'll be like-minded. They'll be easier to work with. When really a successful organization needs some friction. You need to bring different experiences to the table. If you've had an experience in an area and I've had a different experience in that same area, together we can achieve something better than if one of us just only uses our experience. Make sense?
No, that makes perfect sense. It's a function of not just getting the right people in the room, but getting the right people in the right chairs, communicating, and kind of being strategic about, okay, I need these two people to talk.
Absolutely. That's exactly it. And so often in organizations, and it's funny, I've taught millennials and even that next group, the Gen Z, they want a seat at the table, and they get very frustrated when they work at a company and they haven't met the CEO, because they feel like they have a perspective that needs to be shared within that company. You didn't hire me to sit and do the grunt work. You hired me to be an active participant. And I like that approach. It's off-putting to me at times, but I like the idea that I have a different perspective than you people who might be older or more seasoned, but I want to bring it to the table because I want to contribute. I want to provide value. And my experience and what I know could be really valuable. And it doesn't have to just be around technology or, the traditional millennial issues. That young person might have a perspective informed and colored by what their parents told them, what family friends said to them, what grandparents said, or just what they've observed. And so often we minimize the experiences that could really help us drive to better solutions, more creativity, and more innovation.
That would take a lot of courage from a leader. That would take a lot of courage from somebody who is not used to that.
It does, absolutely. But think of the payoff for that courageous decision, saying, I want the best solution possible, so I'm going to consider any and all options. Have you ever been in the place, Frank, where you made a decision and someone says to you a week or two later or a day later after that decision turns out to be wrong, I could have told you this was going to fail?
Yeah, I've heard that. It always drives me crazy.
Well, this is a way to get around that. This is getting that considered earlier in the process so that you don't have the I told you so. If you think of I told you so in one light, that's really the worst thing that you could speak to in an organization, because that says we did not consider all points of view. We did not go at this with all force possible to figure out the best solution. We stuck with what was easy or what was tried and true. And so now you get a I told you so, which is could be the kiss of death when you're talking about big money.
Yeah. Well, as you're talking, I think of Netflix, and somewhere along the line, someone in Netflix said, you know what, okay, we've got Blockbuster out there. We've got these are how these models are. I was thinking as I was coming from the gym, what if we had a model like that, a subscription model? And that was kind of the forerunner to a lot of companies heading into a subscription model. Very courageous.
Yes. I'll give you an even better example. Kodak, remember the camera company?
I do.
Hey, you're a couple years, you're not a youngster then, nor am I. But Kodak had one of their employees come into a meeting with a box that took a digital image. And the executive said, no, we do film. That is not going to work.
Right.
And so they no, we do film. And look what happened to Kodak.
Yeah. I remember in MBA school reading lots of case studies about Kodak, and it was the corporate darling out there. And it missed the boat, much as the railroads missed the boat on aviation and down the line. And
Frank, in business today, it's fair to say that there are businesses that you and I interact with on a daily basis that are missing the boat in their own way. Sure. And they don't know it. But if you could consider all perspectives, all experience, and say, hey, I worked at this company. We saw these signs. I see these signs here. We should do something about it because that company failed.
Right.
That's the negative side, but on the positive side also, hey, these signs are signs that we really need to invest more heavily in this area because I worked at a company where we did it, and that really drove us to great growth.
So the point is that we don't have to adopt everything we hear. We just need to listen to everything. That's
correct. It's about having the broadest collection of information with which to make a decision. And also being able to analyze that information. So as a leader, I'd rather have more inputs and choose from those inputs. Granted, you can make a mistake. More inputs runs the possibility of a mistake, but I'd rather make a mistake knowing as much as possible than going based on one opinion, my own.
Right. That makes perfect sense.
You want the third one, I bet.
Yeah, why not? Let's do it.
Okay. This one is near and dear to my heart for a variety of reasons. It's storytelling. The story we tell the world, how we portray information, the way I'm trying to communicate these skills to you today is carefully calculated and considered, looking at your audience, thinking about what works and what doesn't work, but also how we portray information, how we share stories within our own heads. If I had said, I'm going to get on this podcast, no one's going to listen to this because it's just me, and this is not the Howard Stern show, this isn't MSNBC or CNN, this is rinky-dink comparatively. Frank's got 4 billion listeners, not 400 billion listeners. If I play that negative game with myself,
right,
that hurts my ability to be successful. And when we tell ourselves stories that are self-defeating or self-sabotaging, we do a lot of damage. Think of the person leading the meeting who's half-heartedly explaining a company policy that they don't believe in. Their employees know that. It would be much more logical to go ahead and say, look, here's why this company is doing this thing. I fought a battle. I lost the battle. I'm a valuable part of this company, so I agree with the company decision. If you have reasons why this doesn't work for you, I can understand that, but you work for this company. We need to go forward like this was our own decision. And storytelling is really critical. In this day and age, you see it all over the place, how we tell the story, because we have so much information that we're bombarded with all day, every day. The stories that resonate with us are the things that actually matter, that catch us on a very emotional, deep level. Look at your Facebook feed, look at Instagram, look at Twitter, look at the news on TV, look at movies. We respond to emotional stuff. Not that long ago, we were celebrating the 50th anniversary of the moon landing.
Right.
And how emotional was that? I mean, I heard people, I didn't know how emotional it was. I was 3 when it landed. A lot of people that were 10, 12 years older than me talked about it with tears in their eyes. It was a huge, huge moment to them. How they tell that story and the way they describe staying up that night, late into the night watching these guys touch the moon's surface. I had a new understanding of why it was such a cataclysmic moment, a real change in our whole society, our whole culture on that one night. I had read about it, but to hear people describe it and tell their stories, and we get this with when Kennedy died, when 9/11 happened, when the Berlin Wall fell, and also with personal things, when people describe their weddings, when they describe the birth of their children, or whatever. How we tell that story when we get deeply emotional and vulnerable can really influence the influence we actually have with people and getting them to understand and appreciate our point of view and to respond and react to it.
So when we're telling stories, we're obviously conveying less information. I mean, I can't give a speech and make 10 points.
No.
If I'm going to be giving stories, so I pick three. Three's a good number. So you pick three.
Three is a great number. Absolutely. You want to come up with the best three that resonate with that audience, because that's the key. And if you can, and I do a lot of speaking. So when I do speaking, my goal is to tell some story that gives context to information. And the reason I know this works, Frank, is I used to teach college, and I will see former students all the time. They never ask me about a rule of grammar. They never ask me about English or how to write better. They always ask me, how are your nieces and nephews? Because I would use examples from my nieces and nephews, and they would remember the stories that I told in class to articulate the point of view. And if you think of great speakers, take Martin Luther King and the I Have a Dream speech.
Right.
That was incredibly emotional. If you go back and listen to it or watch it, or if you go back, Kennedy and his call that we need to get to the moon. Very emotional. We do this not because some say we shouldn't do it, but we should do it. Why do we do it? Because it needs to be done. I'm paraphrasing. I didn't get the words right.
No, I hear you. That's okay. Most people don't remember anyway. So, no, but I know what you're saying, and you're right. When you hear people put things out there in abstract, hey, we need to work harder, or we need to do this, we need to do that, we tend to fall asleep. But when the stories, they kind of, they tug at our heartstrings. They can be uplifting. They can motivate us in a different way, and maybe not uplifting, but motivate us, emotionally. So there's certainly a lot of power to that. So what you're essentially, to paraphrase, the book is, I guess this is really for leaders or any kind of a communicator, be on the same page with the people you're talking to, get lots of points of view, and weave all that with stories. The attunement I see is kind of this. Attunement is really a soft skill, or it's not something that we're actually doing, whereas experience management is really active. Us saying, okay, I need your perspective. Let's put these all down on paper. Storytelling is really us, very personal to what we do, whereas with attunement is kind of all that's really kind of going on in our head. There's nothing outside of us with respect to that.
I think that's true, but I would add that it's what I'm trying to do is highlight it as a process that we need to be active in, not reactive in. So how many times do you hear people say, if I had only known that this person X,
right,
this person Y? Like I was speaking to a group a couple months ago, and I was telling a common story I tell about dogs, made a comment about dogs, but for whatever reason on this day, I gave the dog a name. Bad decision. Because everyone personalized that story to their own dog. And you could just, the air got sucked out of the room. Because I went to a place where now, instead of talking about dogs and making a joke about dogs, I was making a joke about people's dogs. And afterwards, I talked to several people who said, my dog died in the last couple of years. It's still difficult for me.
Right.
So we've got to be aware of our audience And that was a great lesson for me. And here I am, the guy telling you how to communicate effectively, and I make a silly mistake. And that's what I want to bring attention to here. If we are not actively communicating, if we're not actively using attunement, experience management, storytelling, we are not using all the tools in our arsenal to be better communicators. And Frank, in this day and age, every single human being has got to be an effective communicator. We cannot be, how many people do you know that sit in an office and interact with 0 people a day to do their job? It's impossible. So communication is critical, whether you're the coder for a computer company or the salesperson or the barista at Starbucks. You've got to communicate. So I'm trying to bring some new methodology to how you can be more effective at that. And if you're a leader, really upping your game so that you can make better decisions and enlist people in what you're trying to achieve more effectively.
Question. Where do we get the book? Where can somebody buy Breakthrough Communication Skills? And how can they buy it?
That is a great question, Frank. That's my favorite question in the whole wide world. They can go to this company. You may have heard of it called Amazon.com.
That's a little company, yeah.
Yeah, it's there. You can go to BarnesandNoble.com. It's there as well. You can also go to breakthroughsolutions.co. And I will tell you this, Frank, the first 10 people that are listening to your podcast, if they give me set up a meeting on breakthroughsolutions.co with me, a 15-minute discovery call, I just want to get to know some of your audience, learn more about the business world, learn more about them. First 10 people that do that call with me, schedule a call and talk to me, I will send them a signed book free of charge. I'll even eat the cost of postage for those first 10. So all they have to do is go through to breakthroughsolutions.co. On that page, you'll see schedule a 15-minute discovery call. You can plug in a time that fits your schedule, and we'll get on the phone. I'm not going to sell you. I just want to better understand you and your business. And I, Frank, have a relentless commitment when I'm on a call with anyone to provide at least 3 nuggets of value to them. And when you and I had our call a couple weeks ago, our first call, we talked about podcasting, and I actually kept track. I actually gave you 5 little nuggets that you could use, and I'm relentless about that because I think that's one of the ways I can provide value to people. So I encourage your listeners to get on the phone with me and test me. What are the 3 nuggets you're going to give me?
Sounds great. I will put that in the show notes.
Perfect.
I will put that in the show notes. I just wrote a note on it. Well, that's the way to get a hold of you. That's my next question, how to get a hold of you, and that's the best way to get a hold of you.
Breakthroughsolutions.co. Yeah, that's the way you can schedule a call with me there. It's just the easiest way. I have a busy schedule, but you can go in there and I've got slots and you can pick your time. It's so much easier. You use that calendar to schedule this, and I think you found it pretty straightforward.
It's a real time saver. It's a real time saver.
Yes. One of the least effective communications in the world, Frank, is when we go back and forth trying to pick a time. It drives me crazy.
That was my commitment this summer to get an online calendar system, and I wish I'd have done it a year ago because it saves it. It's not just the time. It's the mental energy of trying to keep track of, well, if I commit to this, then I can't give this to this person. And what are the promises have I made? It's just first come, first serve, grab a time.
And mine even sends you a reminder a day before the meeting, an hour before the meeting, 15 minutes before the meeting. It's pretty foolproof.
Yep. All right. I appreciate your time. Bob, this has been a great interview. Thank you for your time.
I appreciate the opportunity and your interest in what I'm doing. Have a great day and good luck with your next 100 or 1,000 podcasts.
Thanks for joining us on the Networking RX podcast. Please put what you've learned into action today and let us know if you have questions, comments, or ideas for future topics. You can email them to us at podcast@amspirit.com. That's AMSPIRIT.com. Finally, so you never miss an episode, be sure to subscribe to the Networking RX podcast through iTunes, Overcast, or however you receive your podcasts. Now get out and network with someone.
The Networking RX podcast is the copyright production of AmSpirit Business Connection. All rights reserved.